Good morning, everyone. Today is Wednesday, May 3rd, 2023, and it is now just 9:23 a.m. We do not have any more public comment. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. And so we will move forward to allow me to propose that we hold off on all of the minutes and the appointments until we get caught up, to be mindful of everyone's time here this morning, so I appreciate that. That being said, in fact, to get even closer, I would request that we amend the 910 appointment, which is just the 911 landline fee, also be moved until a later time.
We'll leave you in charge of that.
All right. We will circle back to that.
Okay, I'll start out with review.
We'll leave that too.
Okay.
So we'll just go straight to the 920 appointment, which is concerning the estate of Gerald Paul Tenney, file number 10453.
It is.
Good morning. How are you?
Good.
Pass it down. Right there. All right. Again, this is.
Everybody's names.
Okay. Yes. Ma'am.
Need to get everyone's name.
Miranda Brown.
The attorney. Okay. Thank you.
Christina Tenney.
Jackie.
And no one's appearing by phone. Right.
No one's appearing by phone.
Okay. Okay. And just once more for the record, this is the estate of Gerald Paul Tenney, file number 10453. All those that will be speaking to this matter this morning, if you'd please raise your right hands. Do you and each of you solemnly swear or affirm that in the matter now in hearing, your testimony will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Thank you all. Okay, and this is concerning an objection to an appraisement concerning the March 1st, 2023 Nicholas County Commission meeting. And so, if you'd like to begin, please.
Yes. So, on January 18th, receipts and disbursements affidavit was brought to our office by Jack Tenney, executor of the estate of Gerald Paul Tenney. Notice was given to all heirs. They had 10 days to object. Within that 10-day time frame, we received a letter from Larry Hara on behalf of his client Miranda Brown, who is an heir to the estate, objection to the appraisement. We had a meeting, commission meeting on March the 1st. At that meeting, it was suggested by the commission and the county attorney that the parties get together to resolve any issues or discrepancies that they found in the appraisement. We then received a letter from Christina Tenney on March 29th requesting a hearing be set because the parties have been unable to come together to make a resolution.
Thank you.
Since then, we have met. They
Okay.
called me the day after the letter. Yes, yes. I went because Mr. Tenney's getting ready to have hand surgery. So I went and we had discussions that day, yes,
Okay.
yes.
And was the resolution found?
No,
or-
no, sir. there
No
wasn't.
resolution?
No, sir.
Okay.
No, sir.
If you want to look through your packets there.
Mr. President, if I may.
Sure.
We did, good morning, Commissioners. We did meet, scheduling sometimes, as you all are well aware, can be a tough thing sometimes, especially on a condensed time frame. We were able to meet with Ms. Tenney and discuss the matter. We were not able to come to any type of resolution with this. I would ask simply that we set this matter for an evidentiary hearing to where we can get everything out on the table for all parties involved. And that seems to me to be the simplest way to resolve this in front of the fiduciary commissioner and get this matter moving one way or the other. That's what we would ask.
Do you have the file, don't you?
What seems to be the areas of contention?
There are some lots. My clients believe that there are personal property items that they have a right to. There are guns, several guns that they have issue with.
But that's not an appraisal issue, that's a distribution issue, isn't it?
Well, it wasn't listed on the appraisal at all.
Those were gifts way before we went, now that's our concern. I say they're gifts, they were given to us to get out of the house because he was very, very sick.
That's why.
That's our argument one right here, yeah. So that's our big argument.
I would refer to fiduciary commissioner.
Are there any further questions?
What do you think, just so they understand, what do you think the cost of that's gonna be?
If you can find a fiduciary commissioner, I mean, they're gonna demand a deposit up front. I'm gonna guess a deposit will be somewhere $500 to $1,000. I mean, that's just a start.
Yeah, just so you guys understand that you're, how can I say this nicely? You're pissing away your inheritance to lawyers. Think about that before you get too involved in it. But that's our recommendation.
Keep in mind, do we have any local county fiduciary commissioners? So they come from other counties, so the expenses are.
I'm assuming the firearms are registered and there's proof of them.
They are, I have
So-
them, I have them.
Okay, great. Let me add this.
Thank you.
Yes, if there's a motion.
I'll make a motion that we refer this to fiduciary.
That motion is on the floor. Is there any further discussion? Anything else from legal counsel? Okay, that motion's on the floor. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those against, the motion does carry. And so the clerk's office will be able to assist you and get everybody together and get that process moving.
Thank you.
Normally comes.
I think Mike Anderson's back on this stuff.
Yes, he's the only one we have right now, yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all for coming.
Thank
2 minutes late. We went from 24 to 2.
you. Gain it.
We're gaining, just by leaving stuff on the table. Now we have with us Eric Miarka. Did I say that right?
You did.
Okay, all right. All right, Development Director, and Chris Hunter with Savion.
Mine's easier to pronounce.
Great.
Yeah, right.
Good looking
This
out.
is, of course, concerning a update on the solar project here in the county.
Perfect.
The floor is yours.
Thank you very much. And Chris has got some documents which we'll share in just a second for the lease. I just wanted to give you all a quick update on the project if I could. It's been a few months since we last talked. Well, it's good to see you up here, by the way. Real quickly, Eric Miarka, Director of Development with Savion. Chris Hunter with Jackson Kelly is our law firm helping us with the tax abatement. Since we last spoke, the project development has progressed. We've made a lot of progress and are transitioning towards our pre-construction process. So real quickly, I'll just mention what we've worked on. Our environmental surveys are done. We're working through the mine closeout process for the outstanding mine permits on site, transitioning those through post-mining land use process. That's ongoing. It's going to take a little bit of time. The full property We are still on the 1 yard line, maybe we're on the 1 inch line now. Hopefully by the next time we come and update you, that will be a done deal, and I'll have a more detailed update on that piece of property. The bomber crash site. So one thing that we have done is we have engaged an historic preservation and archaeological firm to help us identify the exact location of the bomber crash site. That firm's called Stantec. Part of their scope is going to be to meet with the historic commission here in the county. So they're going to be doing that in the hopefully next 4 to 5 weeks. I'll have to get on see when the next scheduled meeting is. But they're going to coordinate with the State Historic Preservation Office, make sure that they know exactly where the bomber crash site is. They're going to work with the Historic Commission, and then they're going to go out and actually do some field work. Preliminary analysis and coordination with SHPO, the State Historic Preservation Office, has indicated that that's not on our property. I think it's on Western Pocahontas land. Either way, we're going to work with whoever the landowner is if it's not within our lease area to get permission to go access it. We can go out there, mark it, and then my intention is that we'll do some sort of grant to the Historic Commission, assuming they want to partner with us, to make sure that that site's permanently memorialized and protected. So that's still coming together. First step is to work with our consultant and the Historic Commission to make sure we know exactly where it is.
So I'm actually on the Historic Park Commission.
Yeah.
If you guys go out there, I'd like to do the company on site.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the first step will be just to come and meet at the next, our consultant will come into the next commission meeting and discuss it and talk about next steps and try to gather as much intel as possible. And then maybe the next day, they'll go out and do that, actual boots on ground.
Appreciate it.
Have you seen the site? Okay, yeah, I think that's part of the problem is we just don't know exactly where it
There's an
is.
assumption and there's a lot of guesswork going on.
Yeah, I think so. So hopefully while we have everyone in the room, we can figure out where it is. The last thing I want to mention before I turn it over to Chris is that this is really exciting. Part of the bipartisan infrastructure bill set aside $500 million for grants for renewable energy projects on mines. Not just coal mines, any mine. And specifically, they are funding 5 projects across the U.S., 2 of which have to be solar projects. And this is a Department of Energy grant through this newly established Office of Clean Energy Demonstrations. The RFP for that funding, for that grant program, just got released a couple weeks ago. And OSED, the Office of Clean Energy Demonstrations, has invited us to apply for the Nicholas County project. So it's a very good sign when they invite you to apply. We have very good relationships with that agency. One of the things that we have to really highlight in our grant, if we are successful, is workforce development. So I wanted to put this to you all and just make you aware that our full applications are due August 31st, but we are currently looking for local partners that can help us build out this workforce development piece, and it's still kind of ambiguous as to what that means. But in my mind, what I'd like to do is take a significant portion of grant proceeds, so millions of dollars, and funnel that through to a sub-awardee, like a technical community college, someone that can help us train and credential workers in this new industry in this area. So if you all have any ideas or any potential partners that you'd like to connect me with, please do. We have a concept paper that's due to DOE May 11th, but the full application is not due till August 31st. So we have some time to flesh it out, but this is a significant grant application. We're talking millions of dollars that we can use for workforce development and long-lasting community benefits.
Now you're talking about folks that train or folks that want to be trained?
Well,
Resources.
the resources would go to the trainers to set up a program, to set up this credentialing system, and then, helping recruit potential employees that would go through that training program.
I mean, we could talk a little bit about the Nicholas County Career Technical Center, however, that might be a good project with New River.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, we were
Also,
considering going through HEPC and New River, maybe doing a
Yeah.
certificate program
Absolutely.
there.
Yeah.
Something like that. And also, we would love to get your high school CTE and make that become a feeder type program.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah.
That would be great.
Yeah, so I'll follow up with an email with a little bit more details on that, and certainly I would love to get a letter of support just from the commission on the grant application itself whenever that's ready at the end of the summer. But in the meantime, we're just trying to pull together any sort of project partners that can help us, fill out that workforce development community benefits piece of the grant. A lot of the grant proceeds are going to be used to mitigate the, mine-related issues, subsidence, settlement, engineering challenges. That's what a lot of the funding is going to be used for, but we're thinking that a significant portion of the grant funds should be used for the workforce development piece. So it's a significant amount of money. I think we should be able to do big things with if we're awarded this grant.
Now, would somebody from Workforce West Virginia be of value to come in to partner with?
We met with the governor's office yesterday and had that very conversation. But what we'd like to do, we want to put something in this community.
Yes, sir.
Where you all
Directly.
generate, can utilize these funds. I mean, with the unemployment workforce, we may have them partner piggyback, but we want to use Nicholas County CTE program, New River, and you all.
That's it. So we're region, we're one of the 11 counties in region, I think one with workforce in it. Maybe if we had like a letter of support from them saying, hey,
Yeah,
we see the
will do
need
that, absolutely.
type thing.
Yeah, and like, we definitely want to keep the benefits local, but we want to make sure it's replicable. And that's what one thing
Right.
that DOE wants to see is whatever we develop, whether it's for our engineering challenges on site or whether it's for workforce development, even if we're working with New River Community Technical College, we want to make sure that that can be replicated. DOE can take those materials and replicate it in other parts of the country where they have these sorts of projects. So, yeah, local benefit, but replicable results.
Right, absolutely.
Yeah, you all can be a template for this
Right.
going forward for a lot of other communities.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
That's exciting.
Build the program here.
It is exciting. So, like I said, concept papers due May 11th. Then DOE will give us the official green light to apply by August 31st. So I'll let you all know via email how that's progressing. And in the meantime, please just feel free to connect me with any partners that you think we should be talking to. And with that, if there's no project-specific questions, I'll turn it over to Chris to talk about the lease.
Thanks, Eric. Hey, good to see you guys again.
Likewise.
So last time we met and we executed the pilot agreement, December 22nd. And we had before the commission also a lease that was the sort of companion to the pilot document. It was a lease covering, the idea here is that the personal property, the actual solar panels and all the equipment and machinery related to the solar project gets conveyed to the county and leased back to Savion, Nicholas County Energy. And so the lease that we had put before the county is the lease back to Savion of the personal property. And at the time, I believe that we didn't execute that because there was still one attachment, which was a description of the property that we've now included. So I think, from our perspective, the lease is certainly ready to be executed if the county is ready to execute. There are two other documents that we've emailed and shared with the county.
Chris, do you have copies? I can hand them out.
Yes, I do, yes.
Grab your emails too.
Here, execution copies.
Did they respond or is it just?
Go. So in the front here, those are the execution.
Oh, I see, okay.
The copies here. Lease is in the front and then sublease, lease back.
Perfect.
Thank you, Chris. So this project, a lot of this stuff is, I think, about this project is unique, it's exciting. The unique aspect from the property standpoint that we're dealing with here is that this is not, the real property that where this is going to be sited is not owned by Savion. As Mr. New York has explained, it's owned by Lexington. There's a lease option agreement that has been executed between Lexington and Savion covering over 3,400 acres that they're going to decide on later exactly what portion of that property this is going to be sited on. And so what we have are a sublease and sublease back agreement because being that normally these projects, both the real and personal property is conveyed to the county and then leased back, whereas here it's just being leased. We wanted the county to have its arms around the entirety of the project. And so the sublease would be the sublease from Nicholas County once they execute this lease and decide on exactly what portion of the property of Lexington. They're going to sublease to the county. So the county has the sublease of the property. Then the county is going to sublease it back. And we're not trying to add needless complexity to this. We just want the county to have its arms around the entirety of the project. And so that's what the sublease and sublease back agreement are fairly short. And I believe, as Eric has represented before, this isn't going to impact the taxes on the real property. That's going to remain on the county's books at the normal rates.
So that circle is just to make it so we're included and inclusive.
Yes.
Of okay.
Yes. Because this is a first, for my firm anyways, where we just don't want the real property and the personal property, of the project to sort of be separated.
Correct.
We want the county to be involved in all of it. And so those are the sublease and sublease back agreement. We have.
So Chris, can I just interject? 'Cause I
Yes.
got confused on this yesterday. The sublease and the sublease back don't reference necessarily the lease that goes with the pilot. It goes with the ground lease agreement, like on the real property.
And the terminology there, we do define the lease, but there's so many different references to leases, but the lease is going to be defined, and it's only referenced a few times as the lease because there's some incorporation of provisions by reference to the lease of the personal property. But the sublease and sublease back agreement, for the most part, deal with the real property.
Would you explain to the commission paragraph 6? I'm sorry, I'm looking at the sublease back.
So the sublease is licensed in Nicholas
Paragraph
County, and
6,
the back is
so that I understand what kind of protections.
Yes.
Yeah.
Technically,
Yes,
it's
he did.
still-
There it is,
the
yeah.
company doesn't even
And
need a
you
party
say
to
paragraph
this.
6?
Yes, we just did it for,
Gotcha.
to be thorough.
Great.
So this is the indemnification provision. It's very similar to the language in the lease, very similar to the language in the pilot agreement. And that basically says, so this is the sublease back.
Right.
Sublessee, in this case, and the terminology gets very confusing, but in the sublease back, the sublessee is Nicholas County. And so we have the same language that we've included in the other documents, that we're going to indemnify and hold harmless for any occurrence associated with sublessee, that's Nicholas County's use of the real property. So you're still held harmless, you're still indemnified, just because you're, in this document, a sublessor, you're still held harmless to the same extent you are with regard to the personal property associated with the pilot. Again, we do want the county involved in the real property aspect, but we are making sure that the county is still protected. We're responsible for insurance, we're responsible for indemnifying the county to the extent anything happens on the property and somebody decides to try and sue the county. We're providing that same protection in both the sublease and sublease back agreement that you've expected, or that we provided and that you expect with regard to the personal property.
That includes attorney's fees.
Yes.
As I recall, and I'm not sure it was in the pilot agreement or in the original lease, the amount of the liability insurance that it covers the county was equal to the amount that's required by your lender.
I believe that's correct, yeah.
Do you know what that amount is yet?
I do not.
I don't recall, but I can give an answer. I thought we put some firm numbers in the, into the, are we talking about the lease or the pilot? I think it should be, there should be some hard numbers in the lease. I remember that being a question, and we went back to
I
that.
don't recall hard numbers, but they may have been.
No, you're right, I don't see any hard numbers. It says equal, if you look at the first paragraph, it says.
Under financing.
Require liability provisions. Should be unless there are secret parties and additional insurers.
Yeah, the other stuff's just us, so. Just breaking it.
You're right, I don't see any firm numbers in the lease. Maybe it's in the pilot, but.
I don't think there were any firm numbers. I think the language was changed to reflect that it was equal to the amount required by your lender, but that would have been the question, then what are they requiring? So I don't have any problem with going forward with it, although I would like an addendum that has those numbers at some point.
Okay, okay.
And I mean, obviously, the commission should have to approve the amount of it.
Okay.
So
So these, have you reviewed all of these and you're okay with that?
I haven't reviewed the sublease and the sublease back, we just got a thing.
Yes.
And the lease was what we reviewed last time.
Couple of quick, easy questions, because I mean, a lot of questions on the street. What financial obligations does the county have back?
Back?
Maintenance, damage, repairs, anything like that? I'm just-
None.
Okay, I wanted to
None.
clarify
Yeah,
that.
No, everything is our responsibility.
What I wanted to.
Yeah, and that's where the county is indemnified, so if there is ever any sort of lawsuit, we're responsible for covering that. And I did see it does include attorney's fees in here as well.
That's, yeah, this is the camera, I'm talking, because a lot of folks are watching.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, the only financial obligations are from us to the county. Yeah.
And then on-site storage, is there any future potential or future direction with any sort of on-site storage versus just putting it straight to the grid?
Like battery storage?
Yes.
It's a possibility. I don't think that battery storage is contemplated in this.
No.
Yeah,
Right.
so that would have to be a separate conversation. Candidly, battery storage in this part of the country is still pretty speculative, so solar is not. We're moving forward with the solar project. If we ever decide to add storage, we'd have to come back to the commission and, work through a separate sort of arrangement.
And then I think the reason that some of those questions that came up from some of the folks in the community was potential hazards, if there's anything that went wrong or south, anything like that, theft. That could, throw chaos into the grid.
Yeah.
And then security,
There will be security, yes, sir. We have.
fencing, I'm assuming, or something like that.
Yes, we have to meet the National Electric Code for fencing, and that requires either a 7-foot tall chain link fence or something comparable,
Right.
or a 6-foot with 3 strands of barbed wire. So we don't like to use barbed wire; it looks a bit too institutional.
Right.
But we do have to have fencing around all of our electrified equipment. And yes, typically we do have security, depending on the location of the project. It might not be 24/7.
Well, I think the fencing was more what, yes,
Okay,
yeah,
yeah.
so you're not just gonna be able to walk up and rip the panels.
No, sir, no. Anything that's within our project area has to be fenced. A lot of the roads remain open because there's other users of those roads, like the oil and gas operators, and some of them are still permitted haul roads, so those will remain open, but we have array, solar array, inverters, transformers, that will all be fenced.
And then the last thing, it was just because there was some, I guess, a little bit of pushback with regards to the amount of sunlight that we have and the effectivity, basically the range of effectivity throughout a day's time. Are they self-adjusting?
They do, yeah. Not all of them do that. Sometimes they are fixed tilt and they
Right.
just face south. The ones that we're planning for this site are actually what we call single axis trackers. So they do start, facing east in the morning and then
Right.
track the sun throughout the day, just to increase the production. Yeah. And believe it or not, West Virginia actually has a very good solar resource.
Right.
Some people don't think that solar works anywhere outside of Florida and Texas, but it's we used to develop projects in Maine,
Right.
and it's still very viable even in those northern states.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
And then we talked about it in December, but just for everybody's benefit, and Gary's on here now. Everything goes bust and all that equipment's sitting up there, how's the county protected on that?
We have an obligation per the Public Service Commission to post a decommissioning bond. So before we start construction, we have to do, we commission what's called a decommissioning plan from a third-party engineer. This is a state law. And it was also a condition of our approval of the Public Service Commission siting certificate. But we have to, that third-party engineer will do an analysis and come up with a cost estimate of what it takes to decommission the site, scrap all the steel and cable, and take whatever else needs to go to the landfill. They come up with a bunch of line item costs for all of those, and that amount is what we have to post in the form of some sort of bond with the county. So in the event that we're not around whenever the site needs to be decommissioned, or if we go bankrupt, belly up, and no one's there to clean it up, there's a financial instrument that the county can draw on to do that, and a plan to do that work.
I think those are requirements that have been embodied in legislative rules
Yes.
as well.
Yeah.
And it's a two-phase.
It's two-phase, yeah.
It's 176 on the first phase or something like that?
Well, 100 megawatts AC, 130 megawatts DC is what we're anticipating for the first phase. We could go as big as 150 on the first phase. We're working through it. The site's pretty bumpy, so we were doing a lot of grading analysis to figure out. And I didn't mention this earlier, but the big challenge that we're facing on phase number 1 is Alpha's still mining under there. They're doing a lot of secondary mining. And so and they have subsidence rights on the surface. So one thing that we're applying for with this grant is some special equipment that will allow basically the ground to subside underneath, and then we have special racking that will adjust and keep everything level. And so that's increasing costs significantly, but long story short, that's kind of limiting where we can build on the site. So hopefully 150 on first phase, but it could be closer to 100.
Okay.
And then the remainder on phase 2. So we have a total of 250. How we split it between phase 1 and phase 2 is going to be determined by the usability of phase 1, the land.
And then if there's a technological aspect or advancement that comes around, and you're able to step up, step down, I know you. Technically, that's, I guess, impossible to create energy, but if you're able to step up and step down through technology, and the amount of megawatts change, let's say you go up to 300, 350 or something, and you're utilizing the same equipment maybe with some technological advancements, how will that play into the pilot?
Well, anytime we increase the amount of private property out there, or personal property, I think we'd have to.
No, just
come back and
through
revisit.
technology, like the same footprint, same number of panels, some technological advancement comes out, and you're able to take that same, instead of going to generate 250, you're generating 300 or 350.
Well,
Would there be a financial,
yeah, because our pilot is based on megawatts.
Right.
Say 250.
Yeah.
that's what I wanted to
Yeah.
kind of tease that part out.
Yeah, so we would be responsible for an increase, but there's no way that we could do that. So there's a couple of things that limit us. The utility limits on how much we can inject into the grid.
Gotcha.
So we're capped at 250.
Gotcha.
So even if there is like what we call a repowering, where we might come in and replace the panels after 20 years, because they lose efficiency, they do degrade at a certain amount every year. That's not going to increase the overall, what we call the MFO, max facility output, in terms of hours. So, but theoretically, if that were to ever happen, any increase, we would have to come and revisit that with the commission, because we would be exceeding the 250 megawatt.
That's right.
Yeah.
Everything in the pilot is based on the cap of 250, and the equipment that's listed is based on this assumption that we're going to be in the 2 phases capped at the 250. We don't have anything in there about the BSS battery storage systems or anything like that. So that would be a battery storage, or anything over the 250 would require a separate agreement.
We'd have to come back and talk. Yeah.
Thank you.
If I could just say, the one thing we want to ensure is it's imperative to us where we make this as seamless as possible for you all as commissioners.
Appreciate it.
Because this is a template, this is a cookie cutter model, we want this to be, make sure we cross the Ts, dot the Is, and make it as seamless for you all as possible.
The last one I had, this is all on disturbed ground.
Yes, yeah.
I keep getting that one, and I'm like, it's all on disturbed ground.
Every square inch is covered in a mine permit.
Yes, yes.
We're working through it right now.
All right, yes.
Yeah.
That's the one I get debated with a lot. I'm like, this is all disturbed.
It is, yeah. I mean, some of it is pretty grown up now there's some planted pines out there.
Right, the
But
reclamation
yeah.
aspect.
Yes, yeah, exactly. But yeah, it's all former strip job.
And essentially, the bond at Chill Post works kind of like a reclamation bond.
Yes, sir.
In the event that you don't do it, there's monies there to reclaim the property and stuff.
Yes,
Remove
exactly.
all of that.
Yep, that's exactly right, yes, sir.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
I would say it works better than a reclamation bond, because West Virginia is an alternative bonding state where we're not, full cost bonding for mining. We have a special reclamation fund that has to step in, and the state gets involved in everything. And so I think it probably works better than the mine reclamation system does.
I'm not sure that state mine reclamation works very well anyway. Good, I'm glad to hear that.
So now, of course, we had an update here. Are there any requests of any approvals here?
Well, I think the lease, if the commission is comfortable with executing the lease, that'd be one more box that we can check off in terms of development steps. Do we need to do the sublease and sublease back to date, Chris, or can that be done at a later date?
That's up to the commission. I think if the commission wants to take some more time to review that, I mean, I'm certainly happy to come back and revisit that. The lease, again, if it's the commission's call, obviously, but the only holdup that I thought we had in December was that we just had this one Exhibit A to the lease, which was a listing of the equipment. So I think the commission's had time to get comfortable with it. Obviously, if they won't sign it, but I mean, I think we can go ahead and get the lease knocked out.
And that one is just the commission and Savion as a party to
This is
that.
the personal property.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
this is not complicated.
Yeah, so it doesn't include the school board. This is where, if you guys recall, we had the proceeds split between the two.
Mr. President, would it be appropriate to ask you all to approve this contingent upon the county attorney's sign off for documents?
Well, yeah, I wouldn't have a problem with that. Of course, I'd never expect this, but I mean, you don't think we need an itemized equipment list, do you? I mean, just a general idea of what we're looking at, because I mean, that would be fairly extensive.
I would think it'd be extremely extensive.
Yeah, but you don't think it's necessary? Okay, I don't need to,
Not
I
unless we
just
had
wanted to
a
make sure.
financial liability or obligation.
Right.
Yeah.
That was kind of the conversation Eric and I had, is if we get
Right.
into VIN or serial numbers and everything,
Right.
I'm sure you guys don't even have that information.
It's gonna
yet.
change right up until the day we put a shovel in the ground. so.
Yeah.
And then more,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
engineering change, red line,
Yeah, change order.
I'm not opposed.
What do you think about the sublease? Do you want more time to review it? Are you okay with it?
I glanced through them, and I mean, they're very basic. They just refer to the obligations set forth in the underlying lease.
Okay.
The only thing out there remaining is the amount of the insurance.
Right, and that's where you was requesting an addendum to.
Simple addendum would.
To the lease, because a lot of these reference, a lot of the, as you said, the sublease and sublease back agreement, even though they do concern the real property, not the personal property, there's a lot of reference to this lease. In terms,
And that was just an insurable amount?
The amount of the insurance coverage available for the county. We did something with that.
Okay.
So it's not
Well, and plus,
$5,000.
I mean, if you,
Yeah.
this property is still permitted through the DEP, correct?
Yes, sir.
So if you do something and the DEP comes back on you, is this your baby according to your sublease with Lexington Coal?
Well, we cannot start any construction until those permits have been through the post-mining land use change to accommodate our, I mean, we could theoretically go start turning dirt, but we'd be violating, their reclamation obligations, so we would get some sort of stop work order, I assume. Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, but I'm asking, like with the insurance, is if you really mess up and you create a water issue, the DEP's coming after you, we're indemnified from that. I see that in paragraph 6. Is your liability insurance going to cover that if it's a major issue? Is that become, in other words, what I'm saying is if the DEP comes back on Lexington Coal, because you're not assuming the permit, correct?
Right, that's correct. Yeah.
And if they come back and Lexington says, oh wait, that's Savion did that,
Yeah.
then you're going to have to fix it.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, so,
Yeah.
but I mean, you're prepared for those things?
Yes,
That
yeah.
it doesn't come back to us too?
That's correct, yes, sir. And technically, when we, if we get through this post-mining land use change like we anticipate, DEP has given us assurance that as soon as we commence construction, we're going to get our post-mining land use change to commercial industrial for the solar project. And we're doing incremental releases of those permits just for that footprint that we need for our solar project. That's going to be our lease area. We're going to shrink wrap it down to match the project. When we commence construction, DEP is doing a phase 3 bond release on those increments that overlap or underlap with our project. So theoretically, as soon as we start construction, there is going to be no more mine permit on our leased area, on our project
So this is a
area.
win-win for everyone?
It is,
And
yeah.
especially the state, because after phase 3 bond release, we do the post-mine land change. All this stuff at OSN that's got them, like their foot on their throat, goes by the wayside.
Yeah, there will be still other Lexington Coal Company permits up there outside of our project area that, will still be bonded. There's still reclamation obligations. But for the portion that we're using, that we're doing the increment, the post-mining land use change, and then once we achieve the post-mining land use change, which will be triggered by once we achieve the post-mining land use, which will be triggered by the commencement of construction, they're gonna do the phase 3 bond release.
I'll make a motion that you sign it,
The lease,
all of it.
okay.
And we would like to know the insurance dollar figures, correct?
Yeah, we can do the simple addendum to that.
Okay. Okay, so that motion is on the floor, and this is concerning the lease between the County Commission of Nicholas County, West Virginia, the lessor, and Nicholas County Solar Project LLC, the lessee, the sublease agreement and sublease back agreement, all related,
That's a real thing.
of the real property, the property in question. With the pending approval with the addendum concerning the insurance amount for the county.
The dedication.
Okay. Any further discussion, questions, legal counsel? Is that all said to your all's agreement?
Yes, sir.
I don't want to say anything wrong, okay. I just want to clarify for the record. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those against, the motion does carry. Okay. We're here now at my request with a financial request from the Nicholas County Veterans Memorial Park Pool. Basically, we had similar problems to Richwood. We had a improperly designed water system, and really we were just constantly churning water rather than just treating the same water. And really, honestly, just left the pool pretty drained for opening this season. And this is not a tit for tat because Richwood got money, whatever, but in the interest of preserving the financial stability of the park, rather than the park draining its funds and then we just run short on it anyways, I wanted to come this morning and request $5,000 for the pool account to open it up for the year. And also that would go towards a little bit of a few upgrades that we need to do to get it ready for the season next month, Memorial Day.
So I was told that the same company built those pools, and it's funny because it seems like the issues.
National Pool?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, that's who built Summersville. I did not know who built Richwood.
And they said that, like, when I was describing some of the issues back and forth, it seemed like there were some commonalities there.
Well, and
Like the
according to
water wasn't
National
recycled,
Pool,
it was treated and shot out.
according to National Pool, they designed it the way it is now that we fixed it.
Gotcha.
And that someone has changed it
Probably trying
for the freshwater inlet constantly going, basically.
to do due diligence, maybe. to
I'm
see
not
if they
sure,
can-
but I know the last month of the season, well, not the season, but before we shut the pump off, the water bill went down substantially. I do know that. So I believe we have a good handle on it. And I'm also making them shop on chlorine. They're gonna pay $8,000 for a pallet of chlorine, which is what the market is now, but we're trying to get that down closer to 5. So I mean, we're trying to be conservative. But between that chlorine order and everything else, we're not gonna have anything to open up with. The rest of the facility stuff,
And
paying the guards before the,
Can we explore
council.
I guess there's a piece of equipment you put in, I don't think it's really high cost, and it gives you your pH levels and everything on the water, and and you can do that from your phone, and it automatically puts the chlorine into the water. I guess there should be a cost savings on
It's
that,
almost like my sugar thing.
right?
yeah.
I guess,
No, yeah, I'd be glad to have them look into it.
Yeah.
What I do right now is I make them check it twice a day, that when people are using it, morning and evening. But that would be good year round. And they can just check it and not have to run over in the fall or spring.
Cost reduction as well. You're probably gonna be closer monitored instead of dumping it in and saying, okay, is it too much, is it not enough, is it
Right.
this, is that, yes.
A little more scientific.
Yes.
Yeah, because they do, yeah, I mean,
It's kind of a guessing game, for lack of better words.
well, it is. You're right, it is.
And that gets opened up.
That should take care of the pool for the year, minus any major breakdowns. I mean, that's all we can ask for.
Is there any money someone took?
Oh.
Is there any fund? It's not a breakdown of our funds in there.
Yeah. Yeah. Perhaps even coal severance.
Okay. Well, I'll make a motion that we expend the park $5,000 for opening season and take from coal service.
Earmarked for the pool.
Earmark.
I mean, that's what we're gonna do, but I like to keep ourselves as stringent as we request some other groups, so thank you for that. That motion's on the floor. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those against, the motion is carried. We have a time variation we need to make on this appointment concerning McKinley and Associates. This is for the consideration of an invoice for design services. Essentially, this was an agreement signed probably 12 years ago, I believe, somewhere around that time frame. And really what it was is it was an open-ended contract, which nothing against our predecessors, but I do not believe is truly something a commission can take on. But they did, and you know, at the beginning of my term and at the very, very, very beginning of Commissioner Chapman's term, we tried our best to work with them. And, you know, it was during the beginning of the pandemic, so we did see the rise in construction costs, like the Board of Education situation and others. And I mean, they were getting up to such an exorbitant rate that basically we just had to abandon the project. Well, we thought we cut it off and this, that, and fourth and whatever, but after discussions with them, how do we
Well, they made, if you recall, we received a letter from the council about a month ago. They were demanding in excess of $50,000.
Right.
And they have agreed, and I believe, and I would recommend to the commission a settlement of that at $22,500.
So in theory, we save $32,000.
Correct.
Yes. And so, and basically what it is just, they were not providing an adequate service. We cut ties, they did not agree, but to look after the safety of the commission, the Homeland Security Department, and not stringing this out any longer than we have to, it would be my recommendation, as Mr. Tucker mentioned, that we approve the accepted amount from McKinley and Associates for $22,500, and this settles all claims whatsoever from McKinley and upon this commission and Homeland Security Department both, and formally, officially, forever and a day, we're done. We're done. Of course, this was when we were building a 911 center. Since this time, it's gone on so long, we've owned the old Summersville Post Office for years now, and remodeling it into a Homeland Security Center. And so this is just a bad old debt, and we appreciate everyone's efforts in getting it down to where it is. But I would like to bring it to a close today.
Yeah, it's like, it says contracts dated September 10th, 2012.
2012. So,
Yeah. And they were seeking, the original invoice was $36,304. Then with the late charge and everything, it's $51,550.16. Negotiated down to $22,500.
Yes.
So we're paying less than even the original invoice.
Yeah. And they had an exuberant interest rates
Yes.
and different things. It's just,
So it's debt that we did not incur, but we are responsible for.
but we appreciate their working with us just to get this resolved.
Yes.
So they can move on, we can move on.
Yes.
With our operations as well. And I would request that, should there be a motion made, I would request that this amount be taken out of the E911 fund balance.
Okay. Anyway,
Sure.
Make a motion that we take the monies out of the E911 fund balance to pay off the $22,500 to
Settle
McKinley
all claims.
Architecture and Engineering to settle all claims.
That motion's on the floor. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those against, the motion does carry. Now, if we could go back to the beginning of our agenda. Before we do our motions, I'd like to go back to the ordinance on the E911 landline increase. Now, this ordinance is not actually an increase. That increase has already taken place. As we have mentioned in previous meetings, this is simply a technicality that the cable and phone companies requested that we amend, taking the date, I believe it was from February 1st to March 3rd, May 3rd, today, in the effective date, so that customers of these services in the county would not receive 3 to 4 months worth of billing, but only the first month being the month of May. And so we need to, this will be the third reading too, right, Betty?
Third.
Right. So if we could have a motion to waive the reading and approve the third reading of this amended ordinance.
make that motion.
Okay, that motion's on the floor. Is there any further discussion or questions? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those against, the motion does carry. Now, of course, it does call for the execution of that agreement, but we can handle that, I believe, after the meeting. Now, if one of you gentlemen would like to begin with the minutes and so forth at the beginning.
We start. Review, I will make a motion to review and waive the reading of the special meeting of March 28th, 2023 regarding PEI insurance, special budgetary meeting for fiscal year ending 2024, with the motion to approve or amend.
That motion's on the floor. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those against, the motion does carry.
Upon review of the exonerations as presented by the Nicholas County Assessor, move to approve accordingly.
That motion is on the floor. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those against, the motion does carry.
Upon review of the estate and fiduciary matters as presented by the Nicholas County Clerk, move to approve accordingly unless otherwise noted.
That motion's on the floor. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those against, the motion does carry.
Upon submission of budget revisions received from the elected officials and department heads, the commission will take appropriate action as deemed necessary.
That motion's on the floor. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those against, the motion does carry.
Upon review of invoices as submitted by various departmental offices, the commission will take the appropriate action as deemed necessary.
Okay, that motion's on the floor. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those against, the motion does carry. For the terms of office expiring, I would recommend, just for further discussion, that we table the airport authority discussions until the next meeting. So we will move forward to the Nicholas County Parks and Recreation Commission. We do have 3 resignations. One was for helping out with the management of the pool. We're glad to have her back. She's a previous manager. That's Mrs. Mary Spencer. Another one was due to an illness, and we continue our prayers for Miss Kaufman and appreciate her time on the board, as well as Miss Shamblin, who used to be on the fair board. All 3 of those have resigned. And so if we could have a motion to accept all 3 of those, and then we can go through the positions. But a motion to accept the resignation of Mary Spencer, Terry Shamblin, and Jennifer Kaufman, all of their terms of office expiring as according.
So moved.
That motion is on the floor. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those against, the motion does carry. Now, if we can begin at the top, Ms. Spencer and Ms. Shamblin were both general public, and so there are no ties to these positions. And so if we have, and then Ms. Kaufman was with the fair. And I will say, for the fair, the fair board has voted to request Michelle Underwood, the president of the board, to take that seat. And so I will recommend Michelle, and then the other 2 seats we can discuss.
So I'd like to make a motion that the fair board vacancy of Jennifer Kaufman be filled with Michelle Underwood.
Okay? Motion's on the floor. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those against, the motion does carry.
Then a motion that the unexpired term of Mary Spencer be backfilled with Tracy McCoy.
And Ms. McCoy was at the previous park board meeting and did show interest, and we appreciate that.
Yes.
That being said, that motion is on the floor. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those against, the motion does carry. And also at the meeting was
Ms. Kathleen Curry.
Miss Kathleen Curry, who's been a very strong supporter of Indian Rocks Park, and she also did show interest in the board. To my knowledge, I have no one else, unless you all have anyone.
And I think the value that she does bring, she was a member of the Rurtons before that actually had oversight over Indian Rocks, and she's kind of taken, single-handedly led the efforts of some of the events that goes on there. Comes to the meetings and has definitely, I think she's only missed one since they've turned the park over to us, yes. So that would be my recommendation, is that we fill the open seat of Terry Shamblin with Miss Kathleen Curry.
Okay, that motion's on the floor. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those against, the motion does carry. On to the Nicholas County Fire Board, related to the health concerns and matters that Ms. Kaufman is dealing with. She has sent in her resignation to the Nicholas County Fire Board. And so if we could have a motion to accept that resignation.
So moved.
That motion's on the floor. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those against, the motion does carry. Now we have an unexpired term, and unless you all have any recommendations, I do have a recommendation of Mr. Michael Painter. He is a local business owner, actually has the chalets at the park, at the lake, the cabins. Former firefighter, very involved and very knowledgeable, I feel, of what, how we can make sure the funds are properly spent, even though it is a citizen role versus a fire chief role. It still brings a lot of experience to the table.
I'll make that motion that we appoint Michael Painter to fill the vacant slot of Jennifer Kaufman on the Nichols County Fire Board.
That motion is on the floor. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those against, the motion does carry. That being said, we are down to commissioners' comments. Are there any comments from either of the other commissioners?
Just to reaffirm once again that, you know, with the ARP money that is pretty much expired at this point, that we be the last mile effort for any financial funding or assistance requests, and that you're definitely looking at a need, not a want or an expansion of something. So if you're replacing broken equipment, something that's actually needed to provide your service or whatever it is you're doing, versus growth and expansion at this point, if you're going to approach the commission. I just think we need to keep putting that out there and get folks retrained in that aspect.
And it's not, you might want to redirect it, it's not all spent, but it's committed.
Yes, yes.
It's committed.
Right.
To community projects.
Yes.
And in a time where the United States Senate is considering a bill to take back all
Yes.
uncommitted
Yes.
funds, thank goodness we.
That check was to be written to the Director of the Federal Emergency Management Authority, so the Director of FEMA. That's where this money was to go back to.
And they're real good with spending money.
Right.
Yes. Yes, okay. Well, and I'll be glad to say that upon further discussions, my commissioner comments a few weeks ago concerning the health department, I'm glad to say we've opened up a far greater line of communication. I appreciate the communications that I've received back and forth concerning that matter since the last meeting. We do have a very good health department board who has taken this health department leaps and bounds. I know when I first come on the commission, and Patty can remember because that was just me and you all's left, we had quite a few concerns, and this board and their leadership have done a good job in bringing this health department forward. And I'm glad to understand that we have a great level of collaboration with the Fayette County Health Department, but we all know where we're at. We all are mindful of, we have our own citizens and individuals to take care of. But, you know, in a growing county, which we are, I will be the first to say, as the old man on the commission, sometimes you don't know necessarily how to take it, but I appreciate their collaboration. I better understand their collaboration, and look forward to hearing more from them as time goes on.
Yeah, there's definitely a partnership there, and I think we're all marching in the same beat.
Absolutely. And that's all I have.
I'm good.
Okay, we have a motion to,
I haven't made a motion to waive the reading.
Yes.
E911, but did
waive the reading and approve the third reading.
Oh, but did we actually make a motion to approve the ordinance?
Yes.
Approving the third reading
Oh, okay.
does that, right? I want to make sure.
Well, he went on to say to execute the ordinance,
Already, okay.
Okay,
so I think that covered it.
I didn't hear that.
sorry.
Sorry.
Well, yeah, no. I get a little excited and talk fast sometimes. That being said, is there a motion to adjourn this regularly scheduled meeting of the Nicholas County Commission? Today is Wednesday, May 3rd, 2023, and it is 10:43 a.m.
So moved.
Motion's on the floor. Oh, Frank, remember that. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those against, the motion does carry, and we do stand adjourned.